It was early spring, the kind of morning where dew sparkles on every blade of grass and the first rays of sunlight illuminate the distant treeline. I had been surveying my property, walking along the meticulously marked boundaries that had been documented for generations, when something utterly shocking caught my eye. Construction crews clearing land and laying foundations on what was unmistakably my property. Karen number 44, the HOA president herself, had decided to build her mansion directly on my land. Her audacity was staggering, a blatant act of entitlement and deliberate overreach. It was as if decades of deeds, surveys, and legal documentation were meaningless in her eyes. She assumed that audacity and deception could supersede law. I immediately accessed the property's historical records, confirming every boundary, deed, and prior dispute resolution. Every map, survey, and legal document was in order. The land had been in my family for generations, and her construction had crossed well beyond the HOA's limits. I contacted my legal team, documenting every detail of the construction. Aerial photos, timestamped security camera footage, and measurements from certified surveyors. Karen had underestimated the precision and documentation available. The evidence left no room for her audacious assumption. Next, I approached the construction site in person, badge visible, and called out clearly, "You are building on private property. You have no legal right to this land. Cease construction immediately." Karen waved dismissively, clipboard in hand, surrounded by contractors who had been hired without full disclosure of property ownership. "This is part of the HOA plan. You're overreacting," she shouted. I shook my head, calmly but firmly. The HOA has no authority to transfer or sell land without the owner's consent. This property is fully documented as mine. You are trespassing and committing unlawful encroachment. Her response was a mixture of disbelief and frustration. She had assumed intimidation and audacity could override law. I reminded her that every action was being documented, and that continued construction would result in immediate court intervention and liability for damages. Within hours, my legal team filed an emergency injunction to halt all construction. Certified surveyors confirmed the boundaries, and the court quickly issued a stop-work order. Karen and her construction crews were forced to vacate the site, their bluff entirely exposed. The subsequent court proceedings were swift and decisive. Evidence included drone footage, historical property records, sworn testimonies, and legal maps, leaving no ambiguity regarding ownership. Karen's claims of HOA authority were systematically dismantled, and the court ruled in my favor. The land was rightfully mine. Any structures built without permission were illegal, and she was responsible for all costs associated with the unauthorized construction. The mansion she had attempted to erect was dismantled under court order, and the land restored to its original state. My family and I walked the property afterward, checking that every boundary marker, fence post, and tree line was intact. The land was secure, and the lesson for Karen and the HOA was clear. Audacity and entitlement are powerless against documented law and decisive legal action. Neighbors watched the saga unfold, many quietly acknowledging the audacity and hubris of the HOA president. Karen's credibility was destroyed, and any future attempts at land encroachment would be met with swift legal consequences. By the time spring fully settled into summer, peace had returned to the property. The trees swayed gently, the lake reflected golden sunlight, and my family resumed our life with calm assurance. Karen number 44 had overstepped her bounds, but preparation, documentation, and legal authority ensured that justice prevailed. The incident became a lasting precedent in the neighborhood. Property ownership is absolute when documented. Audacity cannot replace law, and any overreach will be met with resolute, lawful, and decisive action. Karen's failed mansion stood as a cautionary tale, a monument not of brick and mortar, but of arrogance confronted by authority.